go about our next things. So let me just share my screen in a second. All right. All right. So again, can you see my virtual machine screen? I don't have a chat window open right now. Let me just open it up. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I'm expecting everyone to be here. Of course, there will be some people who will be having some problems, and we'll talk about that. Okay. One thing that I want to talk about. So first of all, everyone is basically able to see this screen. So this is one MySQL workbench that we are going to use throughout our course. And as I told you, there are differences, there are different things that we have to just keep in mind. But before that, I want you to just realize and do one more thing. If you go to your start menu and you see the, like, these previously added one. So there you will see MySQL 8 command line client. Can all of you see that? Okay, just put me a dashed. Okay, so can everyone just access that? Okay, that's very good. And here you give your password, which we set up. Maybe you have set up root or whatever password you have set it up. You just give it that root password. Are you able to see that now? Like you are inside now MySQL prompt. Okay, that's very good. I can see lots of yeses. So again, those who are left behind, I'm expecting they will very quickly come here. Nick, what does that mean, Nick? MHM, is that something you want to say, or maybe? Oh yes, okay. So yes, so basically now we are inside this MySQL prompt, and this one is also very interesting and important because just today, what we'll do, we'll try to just run few commands over here as well, and then we'll see that those commands as well. Okay, I'll just coming back again, Andrew. Andrew, if you go to your start menu, so you'll see that recently added or MySQL one, where you have everything added. You'll find that MySQL 8 command line client. Yes, MySQL command line, as someone is mentioning. And again, here we need to give it a password. As I set up root password, if you click that, you'll say that welcome to MySQL monitor commands and with Terminator or G. MySQL connector is 16, server version is 8.0.21, like that. Okay, and you got it. All right, so this is one. So let's start with one small command and then we'll talk about it. Show databases. If you just click and Terminator and press enter, do you see the same databases as mine? Information schema, MySQL, performance schema. Okay, that's very good. Says and world. You will be just getting those. So now I want to just remind you that now we are ready to go about it, and we can just work in it, but we'll be just quickly looking at few more slides and then we'll come back here. And I gave you this activity so that we know that now we are somewhere where we can just work on. So we left from here, if you remember. Let me just start this from current slide. And let me just switch that with that one and close that one because I don't need presenter view. And now I'll be here. All right, so we stopped here. And now we are starting from here. And the queries we talked about, that we have something called queries done using select statements, or maybe insert statement, or maybe some other statements. And you'll just remember the definition of query as I gave to that definition to you. That a statement to interact with database, a statement that will help us to interact with the database. We can interact with our, yes. We'll be doing a lot with queries over the next few weeks. Of course, we'll be doing a lot with them. And one of the query that we ran, in my virtual machine or on our SQL client, like the SQL client, there we entered that, one of the queries show databases. So that was also a query that was showing some databases, and we'll see that. Okay, very simple queries. I just want to discuss over here. And for this week's lab, please bear in mind, there will be maybe around 45 minutes to 1 hour lecture session. So please definitely join that lab, and then we'll discuss the rest of the things as well. So select name from table customer. I hope everyone can make sense of it. Select is again a keyword that SQL provides us. Then we have from, a keyword from SQL, and then we have a table customer. We are supposing that we have a table customer. Right now we don't have any. And name, what is this name? It's basically the name of column or the field, you call it, right? So whatever you call it, is it a column or a field? It's basically the name of the field. So you know what this query is doing specifically, if we talk about, it's just selecting name column from the table customer. That table customer might have 5 columns, 10 columns, we don't know. 5 fields, 10 fields, we don't know. But what we are doing is that it will only come back with only one column, and that column is the name column. First query. Second query, select name city from table customer. Good. Now we just don't want the name, rather I want a city as well. So comma city. Select name comma city from table customer. Now what I want is that I want to get the 2 columns from that. The first column is the name column, second column is the city column. I want both of these columns to come up as the result for this query from table customer. So table customer, I'm just expecting 2 columns. So here 1 column, here 2 columns, right? Now the third query, select asterisk from table customer. Now this asterisk, you know that it's basically all or everything we use this query like asterisk for. So select everything from table customer. How do we read that? Select everything from table customer. You want to select each and everything from the table customer. For that, you will run asterisk. Now, one point of concern, one very important point, that would be, you know, that would be very helpful for your advanced database course as well. And whosoever teaches you, you will come up with this question in the first class, that is it a good practice to use asterisk like asterisk over here or not? The question is it a good practice to use asterisk over here or not? So the answer should be, what do you people think? You don't have studied, but what do you think? This asterisk look good? This asterisk should be used? Lucky, you say no. NS, no. Matt, no. Can any one of you? Thank you very much. Maybe risky. It takes everything. That's very nice. Joel has almost given. Lucky or NS, why, or Matthew, why you were feeling that it should not be the case? What if we store passwords? Yes, that can be one good reason. So because it will be coming up with the password column. Very nice. Anyone else? If you store passwords, yes. Anyone else? Lucky, why you were thinking that it's not a good practice? And it says that maybe you have passwords, and you know usually we store our passwords in an encryption form or something. But even then, why you are showing passwords to the user even without any? If we have to change something particularly, okay. So Lucky, you are also right one way or other, as your point is also basically dependent on NS's point, that why you are showing people what they don't deserve to be shown, or maybe they don't want to be shown. So you have to just show. So it's never a good practice to use asterisk over here, because asterisk means all or everything. Now, on the other hand, if you see these 2 queries, you know, these 2 queries look more, you know, acceptable enough in a way that it will be just bringing out name of that table. Name should not be that a big matter for the time being. We are talking about name and city, maybe taking out from the customer. So only customer is related to name and city, and nothing else would be provided to the customer or to the user or whosoever is just accessing that database. And then we have, so but again, when we say everything, it means if it has 5 columns, all 5-6 columns will appear over here. Now select asterisk from table customer where city is equal to Toronto. Now it's a very good one. Where keyword, very powerful. Why? It will say that only bring those customers, but keep in mind all columns of those customers who have city as Toronto. I hope everyone is getting that. So now we will get a result, and every column will be there, but only for that particular record where user is belonging, where the customer is belonging to the Toronto city and not any other city. So we have now practically started to jump into some of the queries, and we have started to look into some queries, and we will try to run them as well today also in our next class. Each column needs a data type. So every column needs to have a data type that we discussed in the very beginning. Okay, if you have to change something, select the only Toronto city. No, yes, one way or other you are right. Select the only Toronto city from the city column, but all columns will be displayed over here. You get the point, Lucky? If I say name from table customer where, for example, I add this one over here, what will happen, Lucky or anyone? Okay, you got the point. So now I'll get only the name of those customers who live in Toronto, who are from Toronto. But here what I'm saying, that asterisk means bring every column of those customers who are belonging to Toronto. So the asterisk act like a filter. Yes, it acts like a you can see more. It's more than stress. It basically, this where is basically applying the filter onto it. Filter means yes, here for the, if you talk about the columns, that is talking about the filter over here. It tells every column, it tells two column, it tells one column, right? And if you talk about another filter, so again from every column, but from for every customer. So if there is nothing there, so that means you have to, you are bringing every customer, every record. Here you have applied another sort of small filter, and where you say that only go and find out if the city column matches with this Toronto. You just bring those table records, but bring every column. Yes, you are right in that way. That filter is basically, filter will be telling us which column to show over here. If you take it that way. Right, so each column should have a data type. We have discussed needs a data type. There are many data types in a SQL. In SQL, we have many data types. There are also many data types in MySQL. Remember SQL and MySQL? What relation do you see between SQL and MySQL till now? Anyone? Other than please those who are already very actively replying. Likes of Joe, likes of Lucky, likes of NS, likes of Juna. I want everyone to just chime in. And what do you think that, what is the difference do you see till now in between SQL and MySQL? Anyone? What people are generally thinking about it till now? MySQL is software. Okay, Jane. And then what is a SQL? SQL is a hardware. Okay, Alex says SQL is a language. All right, Jane. All right, so MySQL is a software and SQL is a language, right, Alex? Anyone else? MySQL has different expression. Luca, you are right. Anyone else? I want or other people to just chime in. Derek, SQL is the language, MySQL is the DBMS. All right, SQL is the language and MySQL is the DBMS. All right, so in the broader picture, Derek is one way or other maybe right, in that way, that SQL is that generic platform, generic language, generic environment that gives us the facility to interact with our databases. And MySQL is one DBMS or one implementation of that particular language. Thank you very much, Derek, and everyone who has chimed in, Jane, Alex, and everyone. So I want all new people also who are not replying anything, they should just reply. Okay, there are also many types. So you can just go and find out those types over here if you are curious about their data types. So these are in a documentation. We'll find data types in MySQL. For general reference, there are tiny int, 8-bit integer, signed or unsigned, bold, true or false, small int, 16-bit, int, 32-bit, big int, 64-bit, signed or unsigned. You can have all values in it. Then we have float similar to C's, and then we have double similar to C's double. So we have certain data types similar to our old slot like data types. We have char, 1 character, and char m. So we have fixed length character where m represents the length, max 255 characters. So again, this is char fixed length. So you remember we discussed about, yeah. So someone was asking about string. So string, not a string. We have this text over here, right? Not that string. We have the text over here. It's a string with maximum length 65535, and also tiny text, medium text, long text have different lengths. But again, varchar medium, it's a variable length string, and m represents the maximum length. So 0 to 255, and in MySQL 5.0.2. But can anyone tell me which version of MySQL we are using right now? Because we have just done installation 8.0. So basically we are now 8.0. So it now varchar represents 65535 like letters. So as someone asked that why do we prefer, again, it's a generic, it's a traditionally a method, traditionally we use varchar, but you can always use this text also. Then we have interesting one, blob. Blob is what? Binary large object. Typically, if you talk about, sometimes when we are talking about the big images that have a large size, big videos or big few things, then we try to create a field with a data type blob, and we'll use that. It varies in maximum size depending on the actual data type, tiny blob, medium, then long blob. So now you can see that you can just recognize 255 as a tiny blob. 65535 is basically in that. And then if you see that this is in medium blob, and 4 GB long blob, if you have real big things that you want to store, you need to have a long blob in that.